They thought it would be just another wedding. A rich man showing off his power, a bride draped in diamonds, and a hall full of people ready to toast his success. The chandeliers glittered, the string quartet played, and the cameras flashed in anticipation. But when the doors of the Peachtree Grand Hall opened, the music faltered, whispers froze, and Atlanta's most talked about wedding turned into something no one would ever forget. Because standing at the entrance was the one woman Victor Hale had sworn the world would never respect again, his ex-wife, Maya Brooks. She was supposed to arrive small, defeated, a shadow of the woman he once humiliated. That's why Victor had mailed her an invitation. Not out of kindness, but as one last strike of cruelty. He imagined her slipping into the front row quietly, head bowed, forced to watch another woman take her place. He wanted the sight of his new bride on his arm to be the final dagger, a reminder to everyone in the hall that Maya had failed him. But Maya did not walk in like a failure. She arrived like thunder, wrapped in sunlight. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom slid to a stop in front of the red carpet, the kind of car that made heads turn. When the chauffeur opened the door, the air in the room shifted. Maya stepped out, a black woman in her late 30s, her dark skin radiant under the afternoon sun. She wore a butter-yellow gown that shimmered like morning light. Her natural hair, swept neatly into a bun, framed a face that was calm, composed, and untouchable. She did not rush. She did not stumble. She carried herself like someone who had finally remembered her worth. And then, out came 3 little boys, triplets, each no more than 4 years old, dressed in crisp white shirts, yellow bow ties, and polished shoes. Each one holding her hands as though guiding her forward. The crowd gasped, phones lifted. A senator's wife covered her mouth. My God, she has children. At the altar, Victor's proud smile cracked. For 7 years, he had told the world Maya was barren. He had let his mother, his friends, his business partners believe she was the curse in his life. He threw her out with nothing but a suitcase and his scorn. He thought he had buried her story forever. Yet here she was, walking into his carefully staged moment of glory with the very proof he had denied her. Not 1 child, not 2, 3. The whispers grew louder. The bride hesitated, and Victor, the man who built his empire on pride and appearances, felt the walls closing in before the ceremony had even begun. What happened next would shake the city and destroy everything he thought he controlled. The grand hall buzzed with confusion. Guests leaned into one another, whispering questions no one could answer. Eyes darted from Maya Brooks to Victor Hale, then back again. How could this be? How could the woman who had left that marriage empty-handed now walk in with 3 children, triplets no less? And why today of all days? Victor's throat tightened as cameras clicked in rapid bursts. This was not in his script. He had invited her to sit quietly in the front row, a reminder of her supposed barrenness. Instead, she had stolen the spotlight before the ceremony had even begun. And now the questions spread through the crowd like wildfire. The very questions that would drive everything that followed. How had Maya transformed from the quiet, tear-stained woman Victor discarded into the poised black woman with radiant dark skin who now walked with 3 small boys at her side? What pain had she carried in silence, hidden away from every eye? And who had stood beside her when the world turned its back? What truth had been buried in those years? Truth Victor had never wanted to face. Was Maya truly the problem in their marriage, or had his pride blinded him to the reality staring back in his own reflection? And what of the boys? Where had they come from? How did the woman once branded barren now arrive carrying the proof of 3 lives at once? Was this chance, miracle, or divine justice? The questions did not end there. Angelica Sloan, the bride in white lace and diamonds, stood frozen mid-aisle. What would she do when she realized her groom had lied about the very foundation of his past? Would she smile through her vows and pretend not to notice? Or would she see the cracks in Victor's carefully crafted image and walk away before the ceremony even began? And perhaps the most dangerous question of all, What becomes of a man who builds his reputation on pride, only to watch that pride collapse in front of his entire world? Does he fight to hold the mask in place? Does he beg for forgiveness he never once offered to others? Or does he finally face the truth he has been running from for years? These questions hung thick in the air of the Peachtree Grand Hall as Maya walked with dignity to her seat. And as the guests shifted uneasily in their chairs, one thing became clear. This wedding would not end the way Victor planned. The story was only beginning, and the truth was about to tear everything apart. Long before the Rolls-Royce and the shocked whispers at the wedding, Maya Brooks lived a very different life. She was a nurse, gentle, dependable, a black woman with radiant dark skin and quiet strength in her eyes. She married Victor Hale out of love, not wealth. Back then, he was still climbing, hustling through small contracts and late-night deals. Their apartment was modest, their bills heavy, but Maya believed in him when others laughed. She stood by him through long nights, tight budgets, and restless beginnings. But as Victor's empire grew, so did his pride. Success changed the way he carried himself. He wore tailored suits, parked new cars in the driveway, and walked through Atlanta as if respect itself was a debt others owed him. And the higher he rose, the smaller he began to see the woman who had helped him build. In Victor's eyes, the problem was simple. Their home was silent. No laughter of children, no pitter-patter of small feet. For 7 years, Maya prayed, hoped, and waited. Every month she faced the same disappointment. She tucked away negative test results in the back of a drawer and whispered to herself, "Maybe next time." At night, she buried her tears into her pillow so Victor would not hear. But his patience thinned. His mother's sharp tongue poisoned the air. "That woman will ruin our name," she warned. Victor let those words take root until they grew into bitterness. He no longer saw Maya as his partner, but as the obstacle holding him back. One night, the storm broke. Victor came home late, his tie loose, his jaw tight with irritation. He slammed his keys on the counter. 7 years, Maya. 7 years and nothing. Do you expect me to die without an heir?" Maya's voice trembled. "Victor, we've tried. Please, let's both see another doctor. Maybe—" "Hope?" he snapped, laughing bitterly. "I'm tired of hope. My friends mock me. My own mother shames me. And it's because of you." She fell to her knees, clutching at his trousers. "Don't do this. Don't throw me away. We made vows, for better, for worse." But his heart was stone. "You are nothing to me now. By tomorrow I want you gone." That night, Maya packed a small bag with shaking hands. Each dress she folded carried memories, birthdays, church services, quiet dinners. But none were enough to keep her. As she stepped into the cold night air, she whispered, "I may leave with nothing, but I will not remain broken." The night Victor threw her out, Maya carried only a small bag and her broken spirit. She walked through Atlanta's streets with tears streaking her dark skin, unsure where to go. The city lights blurred as she wiped her face with trembling hands. Eventually, her feet carried her to the doorstep of Tasha Reynolds, her closest friend since nursing school. Tasha was everything Maya wasn't in that moment: bold, outspoken, and ready to fight the world. When she opened her apartment door and saw Maya standing there trembling, she wrapped her in a fierce hug. "Girl, what happened?" Maya whispered through her tears. "He said I'm barren. He called me a curse." Tasha hissed, shaking her head. "That man has no fear of God. Come inside, you're not sleeping on the street tonight." For days, Maya sat in silence, staring out Tasha's window, replaying every cruel word Victor had spoken. She barely touched food. At night, she pressed her palms together in prayer but felt only emptiness. Finally, one morning at the kitchen table, Tasha leaned forward. "Maya, tell me the truth. Have you ever had a proper fertility test?" Maya frowned. "No." Victor never agreed. He always said it was me, only me. "That's a lie," Tasha snapped. "Tomorrow you're going to the clinic. Enough tears. Let's hear the truth from a doctor. The next day, at a small women's health clinic on the south side, Dr. Coleman, a calm man with graying hair, listened carefully to Maya's story. He nodded thoughtfully, then ordered a full panel of tests: blood work, hormone scans, ultrasounds. Maya's hands shook the entire time. She braced herself for the worst, terrified that Victor's cruel words might finally be confirmed. 2 days later, she returned for the results. Sitting across from Dr. Coleman, her palms were damp with sweat. He adjusted his glasses, then gave a small, reassuring smile. "Maya, your results are excellent. Your body is healthy. You're ovulating normally. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you." Maya blinked in shock. "Nothing? You mean, you were never the problem," the doctor said firmly. "If there was no conception in 7 years, I strongly advise your ex-husband to be tested. But you're perfectly fine." Her breath caught in her throat. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sorrow this time, but from release. Years of blame fell from her shoulders in a single moment. Outside, she collapsed onto a bench, laughing and crying all at once. "All this time," she whispered, "it wasn't me." Beside her, Tasha squeezed her hand. "I told you, that man will regret the day he let you go." With the truth in her heart, Maya began to rise again. The shame Victor had forced on her no longer held power. She was not barren. She was not cursed. She was a black woman with rich dark skin, steady hands, and a spirit God had not abandoned. But starting over was not easy. She had left Victor's world with nothing but clothes stuffed into a small bag. At Tasha's urging, Maya turned back to the one gift she had always carried: her cooking. From her mother, she had learned the art of Southern comfort food: spicy wings, collard greens, cornbread baked in cast iron, flavors that warmed both stomach and soul. Tasha cleared a corner of her porch, and together they set up a small food stand. They painted a wooden sign that read, "Maya's Table." At first, only a handful of neighbors stopped by, picking up bowls of rice or plates of fried chicken. But soon word spread. There was something about the way Maya seasoned her food that made people feel cared for. Within weeks, workers from nearby offices lined up at lunch, and the porch buzzed with life again. And then, one afternoon, he appeared. Elijah Carter. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a neatly trimmed beard and a calm, steady presence. He wore a simple white shirt tucked into slacks, carrying a laptop bag. He stepped up to the stand, breathed in the aroma, and smiled. "Your food smells too good to ignore," he said warmly. Maya packed his order, keeping her eyes lowered. "2 plates?" "Yes," he chuckled. "Spicy. I like my food to fight back." The words tugged a smile from her lips before she could stop herself. The next day, Elijah returned, and the day after that. Sometimes he ordered food, other times he brought groceries, bags of rice, bottles of oil, fresh vegetables. "To help the business," he explained. But Maya noticed the way his gaze lingered, softening whenever it fell on her. At first she kept her distance. Love had once burned her deeply, and she wasn't eager to repeat the pain. But Elijah never pushed. He sat quietly on the porch, eating his meals, sharing small stories, leaving space for her to speak only if she wished. Slowly, his patience chipped away at her fear. Months passed. The porch stand blossomed into a rented cafe space, and Elijah's presence grew into something deeper. He wasn't flashy like Victor. He was steady, gentle, and kind. And in that gentleness, Maya discovered the peace she had prayed for all those years. She didn't know it yet, but love, and the miracle she thought she had lost forever, was waiting just around the corner. Peace has a way of arriving quietly. For Maya, it came in the steady love of Elijah. He wasn't wealthy or boastful, but he gave her something far more precious: security. He helped her expand Maya's table into a real cafe. He fixed shelves, washed dishes, and kissed her forehead each morning before work. For the first time in years, Maya's laughter filled her days. Then, one morning, her body whispered a different story. She felt weak, dizzy, unable to stomach even the smell of stew. At first, she thought it was exhaustion, but when the nausea lingered, Elijah insisted, "We're going to the clinic." Maya sat on the exam table, her hands trembling. The nurse returned with a wide smile. "Congratulations, ma'am. You're pregnant." Her heart stopped. Pregnant. Tears filled her eyes. Elijah rose to his feet, stunned with joy. "Pregnant? Are you serious?" The nurse laughed. "Very serious." But the biggest shock came 2 weeks later. During an ultrasound, the doctor frowned, then broke into a grin. "Maya, you're not carrying one baby. There are 3 heartbeats." "3?" Maya gasped. "Triplets." Elijah covered his face, sobbing, then knelt beside her. "God, you've done too much." He kissed her hand again and again. Maya wept, whispering, "I was never barren." The news spread quickly. Neighbors brought diapers and casseroles. Church ladies prayed blessings over her belly. Tasha decorated a nursery with 3 small cribs lined in a row. On a calm Saturday morning, Maya delivered 3 healthy baby boys. The nurses clapped. Elijah cried like a child himself. Maya, her dark skin glowing with tears of joy, held them close and whispered, "You are my victory." But across town, another story unfolded. Victor Hale, still obsessed with appearances, prepared for his grandest move yet, a wedding to Angelica Sloan, a glamorous fashion designer from Charlotte. She was tall, stylish, and every bit the trophy he wanted on his arm. Their ceremony would be the event of the year, red carpet, chandeliers, and a guest list full of Atlanta's elite. Yet Angelica carried a private fear. Months of trying, no pregnancy. One evening, she asked softly, "Victor, maybe we should both get tested." His face darkened instantly. "Don't insult me with that again," he snapped. But behind her polished smile, Angelica knew the truth. Something about this man's story didn't add up. And on the wedding day, all of Atlanta would learn the secret Victor had spent years hiding. The Peachtree Grand Hall glowed like a palace that afternoon. Gold chandeliers sparkled, cameras flashed, and the city's elite gathered for the wedding of Victor Hale and Angelica Sloan. Victor stood at the altar in his ivory tuxedo, chest high, smile wide, soaking in the admiration. This was the stage he had built to crown himself king. But then the air shifted. Outside, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the carpet. The doors opened, and silence rolled through the hall like thunder. Maya Brooks stepped out. She was breathtaking. Her butter-yellow gown flowed like sunlight, her rich, dark skin glowing beneath the cameras. She held herself with calm dignity. And beside her, 3 small boys climbed down, their matching white shirts and yellow bow ties catching the light. Triplets. The crowd erupted in whispers. "Is that Maya? She has children?" At the altar, Victor's smile cracked. His throat tightened. He had invited her to watch in shame. Instead, she was the one holding the truth that mocked his lies. Angelica, halfway down the aisle, noticed the silence. Her veil trembled as she turned to Victor. "Who is that woman?" she whispered sharply. Victor's lips barely moved. "My ex-wife." "And the children?" she pressed. Victor froze. No words came. The room waited. Angelica's eyes widened. She turned, her voice slicing through the whispers. "Ma'am, are those boys yours?" Maya rose gracefully from her seat, her son's small hands in hers. Her voice carried steady and clear. "Yes, they are my children. The same children your groom once told the world I could never have." Gasps shot through the hall. Phones flashed wildly. Angelica's gaze snapped back to Victor. "You told me she was barren." I thought," he stammered. "No," Maya said firmly, her eyes locked on him. "You never thought. You never tested. You blamed me because your pride was easier than truth. But God has vindicated me." The bride's bouquet slipped from her hands and hit the floor. She shook her head slowly. I cannot marry a man who lives in lies. And with that, Angelica turned, her gown sweeping behind her as she walked out of the hall. Victor reached after her, but it was too late. The wedding was over. His empire of pride had collapsed in front of everyone, and Maya, without raising her voice, had walked in and let the truth speak louder than anything he could ever say. The wedding hall emptied quickly, but the humiliation remained like smoke that clung to Victor's white tuxedo. He sat on the edge of the stage, his crown of pride now a chain of shame. The same guests who once praised his success now whispered behind their phones. Clips of Maya stepping from the Rolls-Royce, triplets at her side, flooded social media within minutes. Headlines blazed. The ex-wife with triplets, wedding stopped cold. By nightfall, investors called to postpone deals. Friends didn't answer his messages. Even his own mother, once his loudest critic of Maya, shook her head in quiet regret. You drove her away, she muttered, and now the whole world knows the truth. For the first time, Victor did what he had refused for years. He went to a clinic. The results were undeniable. Low count, low motility, likely an old infection left untreated. He was the reason there had been no children. His arrogance had destroyed the only woman who ever truly loved him. Days later, he stood at the doorway of Maya's table. His shoulders slumped, his eyes red. Maya, her dark skin radiant even in simple clothes, looked up from wiping a counter, her triplets playing nearby. Elijah stood close, protective but calm. Victor's voice cracked. I came to say I was wrong. I judged you. I crushed you. And I lied to myself. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to admit it. Maya's eyes softened, but her stance stayed firm. You didn't just hurt me, Victor. You scarred years of my life. But I healed. And I found peace. He nodded slowly, tears falling. You're stronger than I ever was. I hope your sons grow up knowing what a queen their mother is. Maya whispered, I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back. Victor left the cafe, shoulders heavy, his empire in ruins. Alone, he finally understood the cost of pride. Back inside, Maya knelt to kiss her boys, their tiny arms wrapping around her neck. Elijah placed a hand on her shoulder, smiling with quiet pride. The cafe buzzed with laughter, clinking plates, and the smell of fresh cornbread rising from the kitchen. Pride builds tall stages for our downfall, but truth doesn't shout. It walks in quietly, holding a child's hand. And in that truth, Maya found not revenge, but freedom. Some say pride destroys more homes than poverty ever could. Others believe truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how long it takes. What do you think? Was Maya's story one of justice, or simply life proving that no lie lasts forever? And if you were in her place, would you have forgiven Victor and or closed the door forever? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share where you're watching from, too. We always enjoy seeing how far these stories travel. And if this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. Because if you thought this was powerful, wait until you hear what's coming next.